That's funny.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Over 50 Starting Over. I'm Barry Edwards.
Wait, let me turn off the phone.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
Battling and overcoming more technical difficulties.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, we are here. And speaking of battling and overcoming, my Cleveland Browns.
Oh, man. The top story is the Cleveland Browns.
And back-to-back weeks beat the arch rivals in the playoff game. Now, first, last week they all made excuses how we beat their second string in the last game of the season because they were resting their Roethlisberger and one or two other people.
Yeah, loser talk.
It total loser talk. And I said back then that I thought they would have a better chance with their backup quarterback than Roethlisberger. And
that is what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I still think they would have done better with their backup helmet head. What's his name?
But I thought Roethlisberger threw for over 500 yards.
He did. There is that. But, a lot of those came in major catch-up time when they're playing more of a prevent defense because they had such a large lead.
Oh, because when I saw that, I thought, wow, how did they lose? He threw for over 500 yards and he threw like 4 touchdown passes and he lost.
Four interceptions.
Oh, well, there's the untold story.
But you know what's funny about that, which I forgot, is the last time we played in a playoff game with them was 2002. We lost. Kelly Holcomb was coming on strong as the backup to Tim Couch, if you remember way back then.
Oh, boy, yeah.
He played in that playoff game and threw for like 498 yards.
Really?
Same kind of thing, and we lost the game.
Wow.
They came from behind and really won it in the last minute and a half.
Boy, Tim Couch, there's a blast from the past. What a disappointment he was.
No, he was not a disappointment. He was a very good quarterback, but behind an awful offensive line. He got beaten to a pulp.
Well, you can't be a good quarterback without a good offensive line.
That's a fact. He's become something of an adjective now. Oh, you got Tim Couched.
I would have said Bernie Kosar. I mean, that's what happened to him in the end.
Yeah, you're right about
diminishing.
That too.
They said he had diminishing skills, but if you don't have an offensive line, I mean, the best quarterback's going to be diminishing, period.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So that is really what happened to Tim Couch. He actually was a very good quarterback with very good stats.
Well, he had a good time down in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Before he came up.
I mean, he had the misfortune of getting on a rebuilt team, a new, what do you call those teams when you start a new one?
I don't know, because this was so unusual. It wasn't expansion team, but but they weren't really an expansion. That's so weird.
Only in the fact that we retain the name. That's the only way. In every other way it was. And they changed the rules because prior to us, there was a Jacksonville Jaguars and Carolina
Titans.
No, that was a relocation. Carolina Panthers were two expansion teams, but the NFL gave them the farm. And they're like, oh, well, we can't do that again. So they changed the rules when the Browns came in and really screwed us. And that was kind of the kickoff to a 20-year debacle. So anyways, so we won. There's a lot of demons we got off our backs here. So we beat the Steelers for the second week in a row, as I mentioned. Their first team handily, crushed them. But also it's the first playoff game the Browns have had since 2002. That's a long time. However, it's the first playoff win since 1994. That was Vinny Testaverde, a quarterback, Bill Belichick, the head coach, and the last time we were 11-5, which we were this year.
Holy cow!
One more
26 years it's been since a Browns victory in the playoffs.
First playoff win on the road since I think it was 1968.
Wait,
68.
That can't be right.
Well, we used to win all these championships back then, right before they became the Super Bowl. And the NFL negates to include that very much in their records. Now we just talk about Super Bowls. And so it's the first, you can Google that, first playoff win on the road since 68, give or take a year. I just remember hearing that on the radio.
I'm just thinking about all those times the Browns made it like to the drive and the fumble. Were those all home game wins?
Must have been.
Because that doesn't even make sense. But okay. I mean, I'll go with it. But gosh, that's
weird.
Quite an anomaly.
Yeah, no, it sounds really weird. So now, so we got the number 1 seed, the Super Bowl defending champions, Kansas City Chiefs, on Sunday at 3 p.m. my time.
Right,
Eastern.
right. So what's your take?
It's a tough one. I feel the same as I did about the Steelers. First of all, to quote my buddy JT, we're playing with house money now. We've exceeded all of our expectations by far. We get to take this experience into next year, shore up the much needed defense, and really be talking Super Bowl all next season. However, we still have a game to play on Sunday. So to your point, I feel the same way where, look, we're 10-point underdogs already nationally.
Wow.
Vegas
okay.
odds.
All right.
And I think that's fair. All things considered.
Reigning Super Bowl champ, right?
Oh, yeah. Against Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league the last 2 years. And now Kansas City does have a somewhat vulnerable defense, as does the Browns. So that being said, you could probably expect a high-scoring game. It comes down to I think our offense matches up very, very well with Kansas City's offense. I mean, you got Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. I should put Nick Chubb first. He is our number 1 running back, one of the best in the league. He's a brute. Now, also, though, Kareem Hunt, our close second running back who runs like a man possessed, he got jilted by Kansas City. That's how we got him. He was in an altercation. It's a horrible altercation. He was seen on film kicking a woman that was down. I forget the circumstances. Horrible, absolutely horrible. But he was given a second chance to come here. He's from Willoughby. And so he has been a model citizen here and a very, very good player, a very good teammate. So everybody deserves a second chance. He's making the most of it. He's pretty, he seems like he's held in pretty high regard here. So like I said, second chances, the situation was horrible. So we got him, and Baker Mayfield's been on fire the entire second half of the season. 2 reasons for that. Number 1 is he's had to grow into a brand new system with a new rookie head coach and new systems and all of that. So those things have worked themselves out. Number 2, this is just me talking, well, and a lot of people talking. Our prima donna receiver, OBJ, what's his name? Now I can't think of his full name. That's funny. But he went down with an injury. Like my buddy Dan and I never liked the acquisition. He's too much of he cries for the ball if he doesn't get it enough. Doesn't have the chemistry with Baker Mayfield, so they force feed him the ball all the time. It killed the chemistry on offense. He goes down, chemistry's there again. Boom. Put Rashard Higgins in. And everything's all good. So that's enough of that. Will you be watching this Sunday?
I probably will check it out. I mean, this is pretty exciting stuff.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it is. Were to win. Wow. I wouldn't count them out. I would not count them out.
No, you can't count them out. And this is the year of the anomalies. So
it's a weird year.
Who knows what's going to happen here? But the fact that they have an opportunity, I mean, I still have Cleveland blood on the inside of me. So I gotta honor that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I think it's really exciting out here, and it puts a spring in everyone's step. If it weren't for COVID and we were out socializing amongst each other more, it would be so much more exciting because the city, just the energy comes to life. You could walk down East 4th or something and it'll be like you'll get tingles from the energy going on.
I love that. What a great thing for Cleveland. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for the city, especially. I'm always for my hometown. So good luck.
All right.
That's really cool. Really cool to see.
Moving along, because we got a lot to talk about today.
Well, there is a lot to talk about. I mean, it's almost overwhelming how much there is to talk about.
I know. And with the upfront career self-improvement section. I promised that I was going to take a deeper dive into Chris Voss, the negotiating expert, who has a book out. It's been out for a couple of years now called Never Split the Difference. It's a great book. Now, he's former FBI top negotiator for terrorist activity and kidnapping situations. He has got some stories. Now, you're going to love this. You know how he got that? He pursued the position of being a negotiator, which is a highly sought after position. And when he went to the powers that be, this main woman, I forget her name, but I remember the story, and I just listened to that this morning during my workout. But she said, look, man, you got no credentials for this other than being on a SWAT team and all that, but you have no negotiating credentials whatsoever or educational background. She goes, and it's a highly sought after position. I'll tell you what I tell everybody. Go do a volunteer stint on a suicide hotline for a while, then call me back. So he does. He joins Norman Vincent Peale's suicide hotline.
You're kidding me.
No kidding. And
boy, we talked about him a lot on the show, haven't we?
My ears pricked up. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
That's amazing.
What he said. He's the author of The Positive Factor. Is that what it is? The Power of Positive Thinking.
The Power of Positive Thinking.
It was a fantastic book that you turned me on to. I listened
a year
to
ago.
audio.
That was a year ago.
I listened to it twice. And,
me too.
Really liked it.
And I read it too. Yeah.
So he comes back after doing this stint, talking down suicide victims for quite some time. And the lady's like, oh my gosh. She goes, out of about 1,000 people I told to do that, only 2 people have done it. You're one of them. And so he got this position, which he worked his way up to being their top negotiator. And I wanted to just talk about a couple of the concepts there. I want to talk about more of it. I think negotiating skills are one of the most important things that we can talk about here when we're talking about our careers. We are talking about our careers here. And all of the same skills apply. So whether you're talking down a kidnapping terror or terrorist, that you're using the same skills. And one of the first things he says is the power of the word no. No is one of the first words that we learn as babies, as children.
Yeah.
It's a powerful word. And what it means is, first of all, it's our place of safety. So when you're negotiating a sales deal with your potential client, your prospect, the word no to them means a place of safety. They say no, and it's like, because to say yes, the fear is, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?
Right.
So you say no, and
you've opened up your vulnerability, right?
Absolutely. So, and then when you hear no, okay, first of all, let them know that option to say no is always on the table. That loosens them up a little bit, makes them breathe a little bit easier. It's always okay to say no. Now, what you're looking for at that time is to get a that's right from them. You just need to show them that you understand their position to the point when you finally hear that's right. Then now we talk about it as opening up the trap door. Now you've opened up. So what you've done there is proven empathy, because what people want more than anything in the world is they want to know that they've been heard and that they've been understood. So as we're negotiating, we both have cards in our hand that they haven't seen and we haven't seen theirs. That there are things that we don't know about them and their position, whether their job is on the line right now, is being threatened. And maybe what you're bringing to the table could be make or break in their situation. We have no idea. We have cards that we're holding in our hand that they don't know. Maybe that we have some deficiencies in our services that we are offering that we don't want them to know about, but maybe we overcompensate with some of our other services. But there are things that we don't know about each other. So when you ask them certain things that are, even if is this a bad time to talk? It's something that opens up dialogue. So he used an example literally of talking to some kidnappers, and that they were asking for a $10 million ransom. but he continued to ask them what they were feeling, what they needed, what they wanted, how they felt that they were being neglected, to the point where he negated the entire $10 million. He actually got the response, "That's right." When he finally found how they weren't being heard and how they were being misunderstood. And so that's the point that he makes, is when we're negotiating with a prospect, trying to turn them into a client, is that you want to be able to hear what their resistance is that your competitors have not heard. So that's once you get to a "that's right," then you can open up the gates to talking about other things. To back it up just a little bit, here's another point that I wanted to make that we could really talk about a bit. I think that you're going to like this one, and that is curiosity. If you can stay in a place of curiosity, this backs up what I just talked about the word no and getting past their defenses. If you can stay in a place of curiosity, then you will not get emotional and defensive, which is a killer for your stance. Right? People can say some things that are pretty brash and pretty harsh that'll get your defenses up and put a wall between you two. Yet, if you stay in a state of constant curiosity, and Merle, you know that this can apply in our day-to-day lives outside of work as well. When we're talking to our friends or acquaintances.
This applies to everything in life.
That's my
I mean, there's nothing this doesn't apply to. You negotiate when you go to McDonald's. I mean, you non-verbally negotiate. You're coming to get in line, and there's a person that's coming in the opposite direction at the exact same time. You're negotiating with that person, even non-verbally, who's going to get in line first. Everything you do is a negotiation almost.
Now think about your example right there. And if that tweaks you and gets you defensive right away, you're going to have a bad situation.
That's right.
However, if you're in a state of curiosity, you know what this makes me, it reminds me of? It reminded me of it as he was talking about it. I told you this before, several years ago, about 5 years ago, there was locally a lady that was running for city council or mayor. I think it was mayor of Cleveland Heights. And she was Republican. She was conservative. And as I say, I call this little San Francisco here.
I understand. Right.
And so we just got next door, and everybody was just incensed on next door.
I can only imagine.
They were trying to tar and feather her. They went on a witch hunt, trying to dig up stuff from her past. And they found an article that she wrote several years ago, like a lot of years ago. It was titled, I remember, it was titled "Muslims, Our Enemy." And so they painted her as a racist. They were just incensed, and it was horrible. And my reply was simple. I said, because they said, "What do you think of this? Racist. That's all you heard." And I said, "I don't know. I think she has interesting concepts about what to do for us economically. As far as her article goes, I would like to ask her what her motivation is behind it. What does she mean?" A sense of curiosity. I wasn't angered by it at all. There's a good reason for somebody to say Muslims are enemy when you're thinking about coming off the heels of 9/11.
Right.
There's something there. On the other hand, I can go down to my local convenience store, and the Muslims that run that place are the sweetest people I've ever met. They truly are.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of them.
That's right.
And so anyways, it's about seeing both sides. It's about staying open-minded.
Well, we live in an era right now where we're talking to the biggest threat to us right now is our relationships in America, and negotiating is a big deal. The thing you said about curiosity.
That's my point. Curiosity
and empathy.
Hand in hand,
being able to hear somebody. That's the problem right now. People are not hearing other people, and they're not. And when I say hearing, I'm not just talking about hearing the words that they're saying. I'm talking about hearing their hearts.
Yes.
And people aren't giving people the courtesy to allow them to express their hearts and allow that to sink in and say, wait a second. I could see myself in that person's shoes. And if people could just start to develop that skill, I think that we'd be a lot happier over here.
Merle, I want to emphasize once again the importance of what you just said. And this is my point, and it can segue into everything that we're going to talk about and the very main issues at the heart of America.
Yes.
And as I said a few minutes ago, the most important thing for all of us, to every individual, is to feel heard and understood. Boy. And that cannot happen if you don't stay in a state of curiosity. If you're not in a state of curiosity, then you're going to get in a state of defensiveness.
That's right. That's right. And that's what's happening.
And you're both feeling hurt. You're both not feeling heard and understood.
Boy, this reminds me of a sales situation I was in this past week. And we're dealing with a VA hospital right now, which I'm so honored that I get to deal with the VA and help them out and everything. It's very exciting for me. Anyway, I love America. I'm getting all giddy. All right. So what happened was they had a technical requirement called, it doesn't matter what it's called, but we can't do it, the technical requirement. And I have an engineer that was on the call, and after the call, he told me, we can't do that. That's not something we can do. And so he and I, he's a great guy, by the way, very smart. And I was talking to him, and I was saying to him, hey, listen, we're at the beginning stages of our sales cycle. And the word no is something I feel like I'm allergic to right now, especially as we take a look at where we are in the sales cycle. Right now, in a complex sale at the beginning, everyone's empowered to, almost everyone that we're talking to is empowered to say no and really cut off the whole deal and move on. And so they're looking for no's. They're looking for no's to disqualify us.
Yes.
So every one of our competitors is going to come in. Oh, no, we can't do that. Either yes or no. I don't want to do that. Instead, what I want to do is ask the question, why is that important to you? And because we're dealing with hospitals. Okay. There are doctors in there. Let's act like we're the physicians now. If I came to a doctor and said, I have a headache, give me an aspirin, they would say, well, how long have you had these headaches? And, when do they come? And they're not looking to cure the headache. They're looking to cure whatever root cause of the headache is making that happen. It's the root cause that we want to go after here.
So not the symptom.
We're not going after the symptom. It's the cause, right? And so he's saying this because there's a symptom that he's experiencing. Asking him why it's important to him hones in on the root of the problem. We're looking to be able to solve the root of problems. If we solve the symptom, we could cause a whole bunch of other problems to happen. So that was the approach. And we went into the meeting. The guy brought up the subject that we can't do. My sales engineer says, well, the answer is not no. That's what he said, and everybody laughed. It was perfect. It just opened that trap door wide open. And the guy says, why don't you tell me why that's important to you? And the guy explains it. Well, I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do that. Bingo, we had an answer. He says, well, this is how we do it, blah, blah, blah. He goes, oh, perfect. And we moved right along. It's just a perfect way of we found out what his needs were. We found out what was important to him. It established a deeper relationship. We're able to hone in on what the actual what the problem is behind the problem. That's what's so important here in order to understand people.
Yeah. And you know what you did right there? It's something I have an example too, and then you'll see the similarities is you just became a partner with them rather than potentially a hired gun.
Right.
And so I mentioned before, I had this prospect that kept seeing my solutions as being a web designer. And they had this old archaic site that they kept wanting me to update. And they're getting all snippy with me on the emails about updating this. And it's a very low-end relationship where I'm a commodity that is producing a a deficit for them, and something that is always going to cost them money and not gain. That's not what I do. I come in and I create lead generation solutions. I get them business. And like, I couldn't make that shift with them. They're still too like 2004 oriented rather than 2021. And I could, they will just need another 5 years of growing in this regard for sure. I get a lot of people like that are at different stages in a growth process. But my point is when I could get somebody to realize, hey, I don't care who builds your site, but I'm going to come in and make sure it's done structurally sound so we don't get penalized. And then I need to put the marketing and the content behind it that makes it a lead generation system, because I'm going to get you into the black in no time at all. And then I'm going to get you more clients and profitable thereafter. Now I am a partner with them and we are working together to move forward. So, right. Yeah, now I'm at the root. I'm not at the top here plugging
exactly. a dike. Yep. That's exactly right.
Right. So it's about reach and empathy and about hearing what the real underlying problems are, because eventually you're going to get at the root of several different things. They probably don't know that. They're a little defensive that they don't know what the true answers are. But if you ask the right questions and stay curious, then you could go, oh, I understand, because you may have the answers for them.
I really believe that in this political situation that this country is in right now, that this is key. And, we're all plugging into whatever our favorite news sources are. And I got to tell you, I really think that we're all getting brainwashed by doing that, whatever, if it's a conservative or liberal or
Agreed.
left or whatever, it's like we're drinking this when we're watching it, and then we go out into the world and somebody says something different, and now we've got a trigger. It's like a knee-jerk reaction, and you're ticked.
Now we're not curious.
You're not being curious, exactly.
We're defensive,
and so this is exactly, Barry. This is exactly my philosophy. Is this now? Is I think that in America that we have way more in common than we have that's not in common.
Agreed.
And I think that when people bring up these, I guess, flashpoint discussions, I would say, where it just causes people to just get triggered rather than allow your emotions to run away with you, why not ask the question? You're saying that, and I tend to disagree with this, but you know what? Maybe I could be wrong about this. Can you just tell me the background on why you feel this way, and what's causing you to feel this way? Because maybe I'm just misunderstanding. And, when you humble yourself like that and just allow people to talk, and then you really genuinely are listening to their heart, not the
waiting,
what do you call it?
To talk again.
The talking points that you hear on the news and all that kind of stuff. Right. You just listen to their heart, not necessarily just the words that they're saying, but their heart. And I think what we'll find is that they're saying the same thing that we're saying. They're just coming about a solution the different way. It's almost like the symptom and the root. I think the roots are pretty much the same in every American. And then the problem is we've lost the skill to get down to the root. We've lost the skill to empathize. And Barry, in order to really empathize with somebody, doesn't it actually take the agape form of love, the self-sacrificing form of love, to really empathize with somebody, to put yourself in somebody else's shoes?
Yeah, it takes humility. You need to shut your own trap for a few minutes and maybe eat a little. Is what it feels like sometimes, as somebody's unloading and making you feel inferior, because now you're in this like power struggle. You're giving this person a chance to feel superior over you. You're sitting there just listening and you're feeling inferior because they're saying their gig to you and you're not getting your chance to say your gig. But this is what you're saying, is by just yielding for a little bit, you can find common ground. But don't you think that that's it? As people just feel like they're yielding, that they are feeling inferior, they're taking it on the chin. That's kind of the problem.
When they yield, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the hardest part. This is this is the self-sacrificing kind of love that I'm talking about. It's like you're going to yield and let somebody else share their, and you might have raging thoughts on the inside of you.
You're giving them a stage for a minute.
Yeah. You're giving them courtesy. You're actually, and yeah, the whole key is you have to listen to what they say when you give, them the floor.
The most important conversational skill that there is active listening. Active listening. That doesn't mean hearing it and faking it. It means ask a follow-up question.
Well, Barry, you're a great example of an active listener. We have these discussions, and many times we disagree, right?
Yeah.
But you are always in a position. This is why the show works out so well, because you're always in a position of, well, help me understand where you're coming from on that. And then you're very quick to find common ground in those discussions, and it just makes for I can't wait till the next time we have a discussion about this.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I mentioned, I think it might have even been last week, that by doing that, you've changed my mind before. I have had a stance on something, and let's face it, folks, we don't know everything. We're not fully educated on every damn thing.
Right.
So
right.
And I've said this before, even if it's somebody that you are at the very basic of your principles, that you are polar opposites, you're a conservative versus a leftist, you can, if you stay curious and keep the conversation open, you can find 10 to 20% of some gems in there that you will agree on.
It kind of reminds me of, I've had the same thing. I mean, I'm thinking about some of the conversations we've had, the Seth Rogen stuff about aliens and
Joe Rogan.
Seth Rogen. You know, he's been in the news lately. They're brothers, right?
I'm
only kidding. No,
okay.
I don't know.
All right.
No, Seth Rogen has been in the news. He's been battling conservatives out there. Boy, he's he's just not showing any empathy out there. Boy,
I got to look that up.
There's so much nasty. I mean, everything you're talking about, there's so much bitterness between people right now, where it's just like, I just want to, it's just like the hatred. Why so much hatred? We're allowed to have different opinions. Why all the hate?
It's the battle. It's because it's the battle for free speech right now. And it's the manipulation of the media. And this is where we're going here. Because with Google shutting down Parler, and Parler was only getting started, in my opinion. Now, and I've just noticed this morning that there's a shaming factor to it. I noticed this morning on the news that someone said it was on NPR. It was just as I was getting out of my car to go in to work out. They said, and this person was on Parler. That was, now we need to divulge who was on Parler. Well, I just signed up for Parler I signed us up for Parler a few weeks ago because of the anti-free speech that was going on with Twitter.
Right.
And I didn't like Parler at all. I'd go on there about once every other day to check it out. I could not see myself having a conversation on there because I'm very middle of the road, and it was very right oriented. It was very like in your face because these people have had nowhere else to express themselves. My hope was, given time and giving the water to find its common level, that it would become a more moderate, just a little bit more moderate place to have a conversation. And maybe Twitter, things like Twitter and Facebook, they're feeling incredibly threatened right now. They're getting threatened with the government. Is it Article 230?
Section 230 of the Communications Act, right.
So they're feeling that. Now they're feeling the heat from things like Parler coming on. Rumble is probably putting a little bit of heat on YouTube right now. It's free speech competitor. As these people are really putting the screws to free speech. So to your point, I think that is what's going on right now. That's why everything's coming to a head. We can't feel heard and empathized with if we can't be heard at all.
Yeah, exactly. The answer to having two different sides of an argument is not to eliminate one side of the argument and pretend that it doesn't exist, or act like whatever ideas come out of somebody that has a different idea than you is somehow evil. That's not how America works. The free speech is a very integral part of the American way of life. In fact,
very
it's at the very center of American life. And we have to remember, how this all came about and why freedom of speech is so important. And the first thing about freedom of speech is that if you control how people speak, then you control how they think. That's really the very important thing about freedom of speech. So
that's one degree of it. I got another one, but go ahead.
Okay, so the whole fact is that at the center of liberty is that you have your own mind, and that you can make up your own mind about things, and that the truth has a ring to it. And so the whole thing about America is that we are adults. We're adults here, that are the rule of law is that we're in a country that is controlled by the consent of the governed, not by the governed. The government isn't in control of the people. The people are in control of the government. So they have to have freedom of thought so that they can see all things and put it into their own funnel and come up with the answer. And the answer is usually lying in the body of people, I mean, so that I have certain skills, you have certain skills. When we come together, it forms sort of a mastermind. We put your skills and my skills together, and the when you add those two together, it comes up to more than the sum of the parts. That's really what America is. But if you shut that part down, that's the creative engine of America here. That's what's caused. I mean, just one example here in America, we've talked about this here in America. The average lifespan was about 40 years when we first became a country. And because of this concept of free speech and being able to share things and not demonizing technology or advancements, medicines like hydroxychloroquine or things like that, we've been able to open up and actually expand our mechanisms here, where now the average lifespan is around 80. I mean, twice as much as it was before. This is where the rubber hits the road. But go ahead. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Oh boy. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this. Now, I think first of all that, bear with me here. I think that what we're doing right now, I've mentioned before, is we are putting together our virtual brain. And you can take that, social media is that eventually that will be our collective. It will be the Borg. Okay. It will be
yikes. I just say yikes to that. That is horrifying.
Yeah. It will be a whole collection of all of us, all of our different thoughts, all of our different personalities. So if you have an individual, I've mentioned this before, and you have some thoughts and negative feelings that are really bothering you, and you continue to push them down. I don't like thinking about that kind of stuff. That's a horrible memory. You push it out. It's like having a party. You invite all the good stuff. I like happy Barry. I like positive Barry. I like empathetic Barry, but I don't like unhappy guy, this one and this one. So you're not invited to a party. Well, those guys start banging on the door really freaking hard. Okay. Those are what it's saying. What that is, this is basic psychological talk, is that when you deny yourself certain feelings, past memories and all that, the cure to that is to actually invite those emotions and memories and deal with them in a controlled manner, in a healthy manner. And then they will lose power over you. Okay. You start to integrate that back into your personality, and that's how you heal. Well, this is what's going on right now. So when we're on social media and everybody is building their bubble, like you just can't stand listening to that person anymore, even though he's been your friend for 20 years. And so you unfriend them or unfollow them or whatever the terminology may be. And the other person is doing that. And all these different factions are doing that. You're building your own bubbles. That's fine. You're building what is okay for your personality.
Right.
But do not inhibit the speech of certain factions because you don't like what they're saying and force them to go underground.
Yeah.
If your gig I'm speaking in your language, leftists. If your gig is about white supremacists, which you throw around with reckless abandon, but let's say white supremacists, do not force them underground where you don't know what they're saying, doing, and thinking and where they're at. You want them, you may unfollow them, but if you want, you can go look them up and find out what they're talking about.
Well, you're bringing up, you're bringing up such a great point. I mean,
I'm not done. Let's make the full analogy real here. So like I said about the individual personality, now we have the collective, and that is all of social media. That is all the internet, which will be the Borg one day. Let it all out there. Keep free speech. You want to know where those people on the most extreme ends are. You don't want to follow them on a daily basis because you feel that they're a negative influence to you, so you unfollow them, fine. But you could always look them up and keep tabs on them and find out what they're doing at any given time. Just like those aspects of your personality, you got to know how to deal with negative emotions, negative people, things that you don't like, as much as you know how to deal with all the things that you do like.
Well, and I think the fact of the matter is that if you actually do what you talked about to begin with, which is what the whole empathy piece and saying curiosity, right, and trying to really understand why they're saying that. That's really what the problem is. And when you get to that point, you might change your mind on how you feel, and you might realize that maybe I was wrong about something, and together, because now that door is still open, you're able to find a better way, and that's really I think we're saying the same thing. Freedom of speech allows people with different ways of thinking, different cultures. It allows people to actually link up, lock arms, and achieve the goals that they wouldn't have if they were just individuals. And that's why America has been so powerful of a country and has been a beacon to the rest of the world up until now. But I do see where that is being completely threatened, and that's concerning to me.
Well, let's think about the hypocrisy here. If you love diversity so much and all the different races and all the different cultures, then you're listening to then you're apparently open to every different viewpoint, right?
That doesn't agree with yours. That's what you would think.
You would think. So this open mind means open communication, means freedom of speech, it means tolerance, it means understanding, it means empathy, it means all the things that are good. I'm just telling you, when you want to build a bubble of your own little team that you are going to not be able to deal with the world, you need to know how to deal with things that you don't agree with, or things that you might even hate. And it's a shame that you actually hate things or people and opinions.
Yes.
Stay in a place of curiosity. Understand why they are coming from that. Doesn't mean you got to agree with them. Just understand why they're coming from that perspective. And your life, you will build so much more love in your heart, and your day will be so much happier. It's something that I strive for. It's my own inner battle that I try to stay more on the positive side of things and less on the negative. And this is how it's done. It's empathizing with other people.
Well, and I think I agree. And I think what we're seeing right now, Barry, especially with the news of the day, I mean, America has completely changed since our last show. I mean, we're living in a different country than we did just a week ago.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about that because you sent me. I got it this morning. The video of inside the so-called riot on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
So somebody filming it, and it was a 40-minute video of the entire thing. And yes, I did skip. I watched it in about 20 minutes. I saw the whole thing, including the shooting of that lady towards the end, which was horrific.
It was terrible.
I want to ask you, what was your point in sending that to me? What did you expect me to glean from it? And what are your feelings on the whole thing?
I'm glad that you had a chance to check it out, Barry, and I didn't say anything about it on purpose because I wanted to be able to discuss this. But I saw the video yesterday, and I think the interesting part about this is the video was from a person. His name is John Sullivan, and he has he's a guy that is a leftist person who runs a group called the Insurgents Group. I think that's the name of it. Anyway, he's on record just a few weeks ago being down in Washington and saying, we got to burn this place down and we got to rip this President Trump out of here.
You heard it on the video.
Revolution, power to the people is what he was saying. So he's completely lined up with Black Lives Matter and also Antifa. So the interesting part about the video that we saw was that it was all his video. And the more interesting part of the video was what he was saying in the video. If you could hear him throughout the video, you could hear what he was saying and what he was doing. And that part was amazing to me, because what you heard him doing was he was one of the group. He was saying to everybody that, we did this. He was saying terrible things about, the country and encouraging people to go into the building, negotiating with police officer, pretending that he was some kind of a reporter. He was able to negotiate crowds of people past the police. He was encouraging people to come in. He was encouraging people to burn the place down and everything. It was quite a thing, actually. But then the other part was just seeing throughout that video all the other people and how they were acting and how unusual it was. That I think that was the most stunning part to me. I actually, as I watched the video, I became very emotional. It just to see that happen to my capital was moving. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, which bothered me a hell of a lot, to tell you the truth. I mean, that's our money at work, and all of our work of years of work is represented in the Capitol building. So that bothered me. I got the sense the guy's a wolf in sheep's clothing, being from more of a leftist media, and he's riding through a herd of people carrying Trump flags and all that. You just said the way people conducted themselves was very unusual. What do you mean?
It was unusual. So we've seen a lot of rioting and stuff like that, which is not unusual. But what was very unusual to me was to see the people in the group. I actually have a picture. I don't know if I can share it on the screen right now. No, you disallowed that.
I didn't disallow it. You didn't tell me. Okay, it's allowed.
Okay.
I'm very stingy about that.
Let's see if I can just share my screen.
I got to remember to activate that at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, no problem. But here's a picture that I put in to the show notes here today, because I just found this. Here it is right here. I found this to be extremely interesting. Let's take a look at these people that are in here. Look at these helmets. Mm-hmm. Everyone's wearing a helmet. Okay. I've seen a bunch of Trump rallies, but I've never seen people wearing helmets and goggles and paramilitary gear.
All right. So
remember, they left the rally and they came straight here. Oh, the interesting thing about John Sullivan is he had a rally at the same time called "Get the Fascists Out." My point is this: as I take a look at this guy up here spray painting stuff, I've never seen conservatives doing anything like this, by the way. Not that I'm saying that conservatives weren't part of this group. Like, look at this guy here. It looks like he might be, I don't know. I don't see Trump rallies where people are wearing masks, by the way. That's been one of the things that I've been noticing about Trump rallies that I got to say, I'm a little bit disturbed when I see it, mostly because out here in California, you can't do anything without wearing a mask. You can't be in a crowd of people and not wear a mask. And I'm like, why are these people allowed to get away with it and I'm not allowed? But that they don't wear masks. These people that I see in these crowds and in that video, a lot of them are completely covered up. That's not something I normally see, although I've seen that all summer long. Look what this guy's wearing, the black outfits and everything that I'm seeing and everything.
So
I think at the end of the day, here's my point.
You think it's all Antifa?
No, I don't. Let me make my point. But the point is that there's been no investigation. And yet it's as if Trump supporters are terrorists. I mean, that's what's happened. They've shut down all of society for people that support the message that Trump had. It's become evil. Everything about it. We have to shut them out of the media. We have to, that was the knee-jerk reaction. Shut them out of the media. They can't exist. Shut down Parler. They can't exist. Shut down, censor all of this stuff here. Fire the people that we see in some of these videos. That's happening too.
Yeah.
You know, so I think at the end of the day, what we're going to find is inside of this crowd are people that are represented from all sides of American life. And I really believe that we as a people need to resist judgment on this until we get the facts.
Agreed.
We're living in a place now where you're guilty before proven innocent. That is a very central idea to the American way of life. But we've changed that. Suddenly, President Trump he's been impeached. He's also looking.
Let's talk about that now.
He's also looking at, and we're looking at anybody that supported President Trump possibly also being impeached or censored or shut out of society somehow. We've got people that supported Trump that have been had their degrees taken away from Harvard and things like that. This is we're not killing these people, but as far as society is concerned, they're as if they're dead to us. Go ahead, Barry.
Right. You probably want to stop the share. I wanted to talk about the impeachment. Well, there's a lot there. You're absolutely right. As far as the media grabs onto this story and immediately paints the broad brush of far-right extremists and all of that, and everybody just takes it hook, line, and sinker, runs with it, and fuels their hate. This is the problem, is that the hate has gotten very addictive. It's a horrible way to live. It's a very debilitating emotion. It causes depression. We got COVID already ravaging us for the last year, which has caused isolation and depression. Suicides are on the rise. And this anti-free speech movement, this is all what we're talking about here today. This whole anti-free speech movement is about dividing people, picking your side, and throwing hate at the other side. And as to your point, Merle, you're going to find, if you open your mind, get curious about what actually happened with this riot last week, you're going to find factions from damn near every corner of the political spectrum in there participating for their own reasons.
And not only that, Barry, you're going to find that, you know, there were reasons why that the people were there in the first place, and everybody had their own reasons. And I don't know everything about this John Sullivan guy. I went to his website. He says he's not affiliated with Antifa yet. On his website, there's a big Antifa logo there. So it's just kind of funny. But I mean, even a guy like that, I could find common ground, I'm sure, with a person like that. He doesn't want oppression. You know, who wants oppression? I don't want oppression. So this is there's ways that we can find in common. But you know, if you take a look at, for instance, what President Trump was doing, not popular. Nobody thinks it was a great idea. However, looking at the Constitution, they're trying to say he's trying to subvert America and he's trying to overthrow our democracy. Everything he was doing was in the Constitution. There wasn't one thing that he was doing that was not in the Constitution that was available to him. The very fact is the man that many people felt that there was fraud in the election. And whether you believe it or not, there was evidence. What's the definition of evidence? Take a look at the 500 affidavits. That's literally what evidence is. Is it proof? Not necessarily. You have to have an investigation. Has there been an investigation? No, there hasn't. People are saying, oh, well, it's baseless. Hold on a second. That's an interesting word, that it's baseless. Anytime I've had a conversation with somebody that doesn't believe in what President Trump is doing, they say, these were baseless allegations. But the funny thing is, haven't you heard that in mainstream media like 7 billion times? Baseless allegations, baseless allegations. You say it enough time, everybody's going to start, oh, it's baseless. Well, what does that mean? Because if you have a bunch of evidence, 500 affidavits, we have videos, we have people saying all this stuff, then it's not actually baseless. So if you're saying that, you're a parrot. You're just saying what you're saying the words these people want you to say. The fact of the matter is both sides of the aisle over the last 4 years have claimed election fraud. Wouldn't that be a place where we could come together and say, hey, if there's election fraud happening, doesn't that hurt all of us? Doesn't that hurt our kids? Doesn't that hurt our kids' kids? If there's election fraud, shouldn't we all be interested in making sure that that doesn't happen? How come that's not on the floor right now? You know what is on the floor right now is a resolution to cause DC to become a state. There's another resolution that came out to eliminate the Electoral College. They're not wasting any time. They're trying to solidify a one-party rule. That should be concerning. I mean, look, if the Republicans came in 4 years ago and they said, let's shut down all of the communications from MSNBC and CNN and all these people that are enemies of Trump, guess what? I'd be vehemently against that, because that would give Trump the power of the king, which he never had, and they kept accusing him of that, because if he did have the power of the king, that would have been the first thing that he would have done. Now, interesting, when Joe Biden comes in, he takes on the administration before they even get in the seat. They're taking on the power of the king. If you are doing things that are without any kind of debate, and you're just going to slam it in there against the will of half the people in the country, causing DC to become a state. Let's just look at that. You cause DC to become a state, you get 2 more senators who are going to be Democrats, because DC is the most left-leaning area in the world. That's guaranteed. You're always going to get 2 more Democrat votes, and you're going to get a number of votes in the House for that. What you're trying to do is you're trying to push through laws that'll tip the scales, so that no matter what the opinion is on that party, there's going to be no opposition. That sets up a one-party system so that you're basically a king. You can do whatever you want. You can't have that here in America. That's what the whole revolution was fought over.
Well, all right. Sounds to me, obviously, that's exactly what they were accusing Trump of. However, we are going to have to start to wind up a little bit.
Well, let me just go through a couple things here very quickly.
Because I want to ask you, go ahead and do that, but I want to ask you, talk just a little bit about the impeachment.
That's where I'm going right now. Impeachment. Let's talk about the Constitution very quickly. In Article 1 of the Constitution, we have the impeachment can happen. It always happens in the House. We saw that this week. That is the House's responsibility. It only takes a majority vote in order to impeach a president. That always happens in the House. Now, an impeachment is not a conviction. It goes over to the Senate at that point for the actual trial. So if you really look at this, it's almost like a grand jury indicted him, but that doesn't, getting indicted, you've always said you can indict a cheese sandwich.
You haven't had the trial.
The real trial is right here. Now, the Senate has that responsibility. Says the Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the president of the United States is tried, the chief justice shall preside. We've already seen this, right? But in the Senate, no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. So it's a 2/3. It's not a majority. So it's a much higher standard in order to get that. Interestingly, the Senate is now divided 50-50, with the deciding vote being with Kamala Harris as 51 of the vice president. This means that you're going to need at least another 13 Republicans in order to have a chance at impeaching this president. When we take a look at the House and what happened in the House, we had you had 10 Republicans vote against Trump for impeachment. Now, there's about 200, a little over 200 Republicans in the House. So 10 represents about 5% of them, right? When you take a look at the Senate, you're going to need another 13 people out of that's a little over 20% of the Republicans that are in the Senate. So if you only got 5% in the House, do you expect to get 20% in the Senate? That's one thing to take a look at. Here's another thing in the Constitution. It says that let's see here, judgment in the cases shall not extend further than the removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party shall convict but the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to the law. So in other words, they can convict him. If they convict him, they can also take it a step further and make it so that he can never run for a public office again.
I think
they can't put him in jail. They can't put him in jail. But once he leaves office, he can be tried in a court of law, and he can be convicted as a normal citizen. Go ahead, Barry.
I think the whole end game is just so that he can't run again in 2024.
I totally agree. This is not. This isn't a situation where they're just trying to get him out of office because he's only got a couple more days left, right?
It's ridiculous. So that was kind of my big question. Isn't that everyone's big question? Is why bother? Well, I mean, to me, it's just simply because they want to prevent him from running next time.
Yeah. That's exactly right. But I think there's a little bit more to this too, and that is that it's any Trump supporter, they want to marginalize Trump supporters. You're seeing it in the media, you're seeing it in the news, you're seeing it in social media. This is all a part of it. If we're really going to marginalize these 75 million people that voted for Trump and really make it so that they can't rise up and do anything like this again, we've got to put this guy away forever, because we can't have him leading a insurrection. That's what's happening right here. Let me just say this, that in Article 3, Article 2, this is the president. It says here that the trial of all crimes except in the cases of impeachment shall be by jury. Let me see if I can find this. Treason, no person shall be convicted of treason. Let me just say this, that in Article 2, it states that who can be impeached. And we know that officers of the federal government can be impeached. So the president, people that are in the cabinet can be impeached. Even people in the legislature can be impeached. But it's making a stipulation that only people that are currently in office can be impeached in the Constitution. And the fact is that we know that the Senate does not get back from recess until the 19th. The 20th is the inauguration. There's no way they're going to have a trial in one day. And that's going to be the problem here.
But I did hear that they can impeach even after he left office.
So this is the big legal challenge that's happening right now. They're saying that it's never happened before, and the Constitution makes it very clear that you have to be in office in order to be impeached. So here it comes: is do we believe what the Constitution says, or do we believe what the media is saying?
Well, there you go. Media's gotten pretty damn powerful.
Well, and they're
very manipulative,
and they're saying things that are anti-constitutional. For instance, when we took a look at what happened on January 6th, they're saying, wait a second, Trump is saying all these crazy things, like Mike Pence has the power to say this is not legitimate. These aren't legitimate votes, and everybody says that's subversive. He's inciting, but that's not true. The Electoral College Act of 1878 completely stipulates everything that President Trump was actually saying. And this is what I've been saying for a long time. If the news media, who is actually supposed to be protecting us, was actually educating the public on what's in the Constitution and what could possibly happen and all the ins and outs, I don't think what happened on Wednesday last week would have ever happened. We open up our vulnerabilities when we shut down information about how things are supposed to be and what's acceptable, so that when the acceptable thing happens, everyone's outraged, emotions are high, and we have the chances for violence that can always happen. And so that's it. That's what's happening with impeachment. The other thing is the 25th Amendment, which they tried to force Mike Pence into. I just want to address that very quickly. Sure. I won't read it. But if you look at the 25th Amendment, what you're going to find, and look at the history of the 25th Amendment, this was never meant to punish a president. Right. It was medical. Put in place for the president or the vice president becoming disabled. And interestingly, a lot of the power for the 25th Amendment to replace the president and put the vice president in is in the vice president's hands. If the vice president doesn't want to do it, it's not going to happen. But if the vice president is for it, he or she can make that happen pretty quickly, which I think is foreshadowing for the Biden administration. Look how much power Kamala Harris is going to have if she deems Joe Biden to be lacking in his mental capacity, or he's got Alzheimer's. They can easily replace him with the consent of Congress, and they'll get it.
Whoa. Oh, there's a thought to leave you with. All right, we are going to wrap up, and I want to leave you on a good note. I want you to see this dog rescue. And Merle, can you see this?
Oh, let me take, yes.
All right, so this is in Pontefract, England. And this is a jogger that saw this dog drowning in the ice. It's going to zoom in on this in a second. And bystander, Paula Town, posted this footage and said, what a hero. This complete stranger rescued this family's dog when it got in trouble out here at this park.
Like Stella.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So this is reported by the Yorkshire Evening Post. So he had to battle his way through the ice. Oh, could you imagine? I hate cold water.
It could be deadly to jump in water like that as well.
Yes. Look at that. Look at this. So cool. And so this guy's name is Darcy Pell. Grabs his jacket here in a second, continues on with his run. And what he says, he later replied,
Superman.
He later replied to the Pontefract community page, I'm not a hero, just saw a dog in need. Luckily, I swim in cold, icy water every day as a hobby, and I know the risks it can cause. So I carried on my run after, so he carried on with this after his run like it was no big deal. So he says he obviously doesn't recommend anyone else doing this on their own.
Boy, talk about being in the right place at the right time.
There you go. Unbelievable, huh? So I thought that was a really touching story.
That's cool. I love that story.
Good one to part on.
Yes.
And with that, guys, I know it was an action-packed episode, but there's a lot of good stuff out there. Stay curious, people. Listen to what other people have to say. Find your common ground. You might actually learn something. We don't know everything, you know? Share us on YouTube. That's the only way we're going to get any traction. But if you really want to get all this along with the links to these stories that we share, the things that we reference, simply sign up at over50startingover.com to our email list. It'll pop up, will come up right there. Sign up to that. You'll get it dropped right in your email box as it happens. Merle, see you next week.
I have one parting word.
There you go.
Do something nice this week for somebody that has a completely opposite political opinion as you.
Love that.
I'm telling you, if everybody does that, it will change the world.
Awesome words to part by. Love you all. Bye.